Hello, everybody, and good morning. Welcome once again to the Vegfest UK online, November the 14th, 15th, online free event to attend. And today, Sunday the 15th of November, we have the Wildlife Summit, which has been co-hosted by our good friends at Animal Aid and also the Humane Wildlife Solutions. So there's a full schedule of live streams. They're going to be running all day. They're going to be available to watch afterwards. And they're available already. Yesterday's live streams are all up on the website. So you can go to vegfest.co.uk and you can see all the live streams, as well as a number of presentations also up there. Very welcome to see the presentations. Some fantastic presentations there. And of course, our exhibitors and their many special offers are very much well worth a visit. 2,000 people visiting those pages yesterday or so in the last couple of days. So there's a lot of attention on our exhibitors, which is fantastic. So just before I introduce our host for the Wildlife Summit and the first talk today, I do just want to say very much a thank you for the expertise that all our speakers and panelists bring to the table, for free to these online events. Not just the expertise, but also very much the passion and, so much from the heart. So much of this is just from the heart. There's such good energy. There's so much good intent here to initiate change and to try and help stem some of the damage that we see unfolding in front of us, and trying to protect what we can and do what we can and take positive steps. So I'm deeply, deeply grateful, especially today. We're really joined by some esteemed colleagues who really do and have at times put themselves completely on the line for their beliefs and their desire to help make this world a better place, not only for humans, not only for the environment, but for all our animals that we share the planet with. And on that note, I'd like to welcome, first of all, very good friend Kevin Newell, Humane Wildlife Solutions. Good morning, Kevin. Thank you for joining us. Hello.
Good morning, Tim. It is an absolute pleasure to be here at the Wildlife Summit today. I just cannot wait for today's lineup. It's just incredible.
Yeah, we've got a stellar lineup indeed. I mentioned it's all on our website, vegfest.co.uk. You can also see a lot of this on the Facebook page, Vegfest UK, and on the event page. So do feel free to follow it, share it, and invite your friends and such like. So Kevin, first of all, just before, I just wanted to say very much a thank you for you. You've done some fantastic work here. You've been an absolute ray of good energy, positive attitude, enthusiasm, ebullient indeed is the word. And thank you for that, because it really is important in this day and age to keep a bright, cheerful, positive view and sustain that. And you've certainly do that, sir. So well done, Kevin. What's on the table today then? What's the talk about? What are you going to be talking about?
So we focus on veganism a lot, about our lifestyles, and one part of that is how us as vegans deal with wildlife conflict. So today in my presentation, I'll be running you through how us vegans overcome wildlife conflicts, because yes, we love animals, but sometimes we might get animals in our house or in our business and we won't know what to do, to move them on, as to say. So I'm the guy who can tell you how to do that, and I'll explain that in today's presentation.
Brilliant. Okay, Kevin. Well, I'm certainly going to be listening. I realised how little I know about these areas and how much I've got to learn. So I'm going to be listening to all the presentations today, backstage, as it were, in the studio. Just to mention, I think there's going to be some room for questions at the end. So if anyone listening would like to ask any questions, you're welcome to put them in the comments section. My colleague and I will be keeping an eye out for that. And, round about sort of 11:15 or so, we'll be looking at perhaps answering some of the questions. So if you do want to ask some questions, you're very welcome. Put them in the comments. And Kevin, I'll hand over to you, sir.
Thank you, Tim. Thank you very much for hosting this. Right, hello everyone. Welcome to the Vegfest Wildlife Summit, again hosted by ourselves, Humane Wildlife Solutions, and the amazing team at Animal Aid. It's an absolute pleasure to take this whole day of Vegfest time and have a wildlife summit. So make sure you stay tuned all day for all these amazing talks going throughout the day. There's some incredible speakers on, and it's going to be a pleasure to watch them all. So I'll crack on with my one today. So get comfy, get a cup of tea, sit back and enjoy. And remember, if you have any questions, just send them in and we can answer them at the end. So who are we? Who are Humane Wildlife Solutions? It's just me. I founded a business back in 2012 with the aim to offer people and businesses a non-lethal, ethical, vegan, environmentally alternative to conventional pest control. Now, you're probably thinking, why does that matter? You know, why do we need that? Because the pest control industry has not changed for decades. And I suddenly come in with this idea of ruffling their feathers and changing it and actually doing the better for animals. Now, I think animals deserve to coexist with us on this planet. It's not just our planet. We're all earthlings, be you a rat, a mouse, a rabbit, or us humans, and we need to share it together. So there is going to be occasions where we're going to come into conflict with wildlife. And today's chat will help you realize that there is a vegan alternative, an ethical, a non-lethal way of overcoming these wildlife conflicts. We don't just do work in people's homes and businesses. We also do our own research into new ideas of working around wildlife problems. So we have been working on a wasp nest repellent made completely from plant-based compounds. And the early research has shown that this wasp nest repellent, if we can get it to market and through the research stages, would be the world's first completely plant-based wasp nest repellent. And it would mean no one would ever need again or have an excuse again to use lethal control on wasps. So there's a lot of work to be done still. We're working with a lot of people on this. So that's one of the things that we do, as well as going out and helping people. But we also do educational talks, kind of like this one, I guess, where we tell people and educate people about what's really going on with wildlife. One of the other things that we do, and is more recent, is we're starting to do a bit more campaigning behind the scenes for wildlife. So we've been a part of a government consultation up here in Scotland at trying to ban glue traps. And it looks like we may have just got there. I can't reveal too much, but watch this space. We've got some good news coming there. Also, I've been working again with government agencies up here in Scotland to try and help protect herring gulls. I don't know, in England if it's a big problem, or Wales, but in Scotland, gulls are deemed a pest. And sadly, I don't see them as a pest, but thousands of them are killed every year. And we're talking from big birds, the adults, right down to their chicks. So we've been trying to make proposals to the government to change that process, and we're making good progress. So next year, there's a real possibility that there may be an option where pest controllers, other than ourselves, can actually help gulls and not kill them and take them to wildlife rescue centres. It's still at the very early stages, but we're making amazing progress. We're a proud Scottish business. I'm not Scottish myself. I'm originally from Essex. I've been up here over 18 years, and I see myself as an honorary Scot. I'm very proud to live and work in Scotland. The business operates all over the UK and Europe. I've travelled Europe many times, helping people with their wildlife problems in their businesses and in their homes. And we also have a global coverage. We have a lot of followers in the likes of Australia, Canada, in India, and Germany, and United States of America. So we often get queries from other countries asking for help there as well. And we do that via consultation service. We are, like I said, we're completely non-lethal. We're completely ethical. We are environmentally friendly. And the business was founded on my vegan values. I've been a vegan over 21 years, and it's something I'm very, very proud of. And Humane Wildlife Solutions is built on those core values that I have personally. And, you know, it brings us on to the point that Humane Wildlife Solutions is vegan certified. We are vegan founded because we're very proud of that. We're shouting out about it. And that's why we're here at a Vegfest speaking to wonderful vegans and non-vegans about the work we do. So overcoming wildlife conflicts. Most of us has had a wildlife conflict in our lives, and it could be from mice in our homes, wasp nests in our sheds, or good old ratty foraging in our gardens. And all these are very, very, very common. And sadly, if it weren't for us, the go-to response in these situations would be for people to kill them. But they deserve more respect. You know, mice in our homes, they share our homes, and some people accept it and allow them to continue. And wasps in our gardens, you know, having wasps in the garden is amazing because they are nature's pest control service themselves. If you're a keen gardener, if you grow fruit and veg, you want wasps in around your garden because they will eat all the animals that will eat your plants. So have a little second thought about when you've got a wasp nest, if you should leave them, if not going to cause any harm, rather than trying to do something about it. And good old ratty. Well, you know what? People always get in touch going, there's a rat in my garden. The first thing I'll say is, well, oh, you're so lucky. I love rats. They're my hardest creature to work with because they're so intelligent and they're such social creatures. So with these rats, you know, they're going to live in your garden because that's their natural habitat. So the first thing I always say is after that, you know, you're so lucky. Second thing I always say is make sure your house is protected because you don't want the rats coming into your house. So there's just a few kind of little scenarios there. But there are many effective ways to solve these potential conflicts without causing any harm, without using kill traps, without using poison, you know, and allowing these creatures to live their life. So how is it done? I'll tell you. Why pest control needs to change. So we need to understand what's currently going on first before we can show you the solution. So for decades, pest control companies have been poisoning wildlife, you know, and yes, some people don't care about rats and mice, but it's not just these creatures which are targeted and fall victim to poisons. You know, there's more than just your rats and mice which are dying through poisons and snap traps. And, you know, and solve a wildlife conflict that's accounted for millions of wildlife being taken over the decades. And every year, millions of our creatures, our wild creatures that we should be proud of, in our country are dying through conventional pest control. Killing this many creatures in this way, you would think the industry would have solved all the pest problems by now. But for decades, using poisons has not achieved nothing because rats and mice are still living in the properties. So does it work? I don't think it does. And that's where we come in. We come in with, you know, our new ideas and revitalizing, revolutionizing the pest control industry and showing people time and time again, you know, we're nearly going 8 years now, and we've been showing people again and again and again, our ways work and conventional methods don't. Old methods have not changed much over the decades, but we think their methods don't work. And, you know, for example, we've been into businesses where they've had lethal pest control and have had them for 6 years and have had rats in that same business for 6 years. We came in, we did one visit, using our way, no animals are harmed, and we solved our problem. And that's been nearly 5 years ago now, and that business is still mouse and rat free. And it shows you don't need to kill things to solve a wildlife conflict. And if you think about this, I had a really interesting conversation with a supermarket manager. He had rats coming into his back of house store area, and he's had pest control there, and they've been there for about 2 or 3 years, keep putting poison down. But what he didn't realize, the rats would come in, they'd eat the poison bait, and a lot of rats in some parts of the country now are immune to the poison, so it doesn't even kill them. Once the rats had finished the bait, they were still eating his stock. So I said to the guy, well, if you stop the rats coming in the first place, you wouldn't need to be spending thousands of pounds on a pest control service, which is not working. So I said to him, you know, there's a big hole there, and it looks like the rat's using that hole in the wall. They filled up the hole, no more rats inside. Simple as that. Some pest control companies will just simply want to keep that continuation of business going because it makes them money. You know, but that's not what we're about. This business, Humane Wildlife Solutions, was not founded to make me rich or to to earn me a living. And in the first 6 years of it, I was running up debts with the business. And I believed in it so much because it saves lives, it saves wildlife. I carried on going. And, there was a lot of forgotten victims of conventional pest control. You may think rats and mice are the only ones being poisoned, but they're not. Often you'll find voles and shrews, birds and hedgehogs, cats and dogs, and even birds of prey have fallen victim to lethal pest control. So this slide here, non-target victims. So it's not only the intended victims of pest control that die. Sadly, many non-target species are killed too, be it directly or indirectly. So like I said, like the shrews and the voles, these are creatures which can get into bait stations and eat the poison and die. And it's illegal to kill these creatures. And pest controllers shouldn't be using bait stations or traps in areas where these creatures are living. And they're meant to survey these areas, but don't always do it. Hedgehogs also. Hedgehogs, a lot of people have problem with slugs in their garden and they put down slug pellets, and our hedgehogs do eat them, and they do eat some of the poisons put out for other rodents. Another victim of non-target species, birds. There's a glue trap that I got sent a picture of a glue trap with a bird that was stuck on it. And this is quite a regular occurrence. Glue traps were hoping to ban in Scotland very soon, but they're still in use all over the UK. And, birds and hedgehogs. I've even seen pictures of a kitten stuck in a glue trap. So we need to know that these conventional methods don't work, and they're killing our wildlife and they're killing our pets as well. And that's not acceptable. So we need to see a change in the coming years. And we're going to be hopefully joining forces with big charities to push that change forward, because we need to change it. Our wildlife is in a massive state of decline. 25% of the UK's mammals are in decline. That's just not acceptable. We've got vast areas of the UK which are almost wildlife dead zones now, because nothing can survive there due to pest control and other practices going on. One last one. If you have rats in the garden, or your neighbour sees there's rats in the garden and wants to put poison down. I once heard a story from a client who had rats in their garden, and a neighbour put poison out, threw it around, and the rats ate the poison. And the rats, sadly, ate the poison and became too ill. And in the process of dying, the barn owls that lived at the end of the road were swooping in and eating these rats. And these barn owls had 3 chicks, and the 3 chicks and the 2 adults all perished through the secondary poisoning. So please, if you know somebody who's got a problem with rats and mice, get them to contact me. I'd happily talk to them all day about it if I can convince them there is a better way. Because these are just cases we know about where our amazing wildlife is dying because of pest control. There is another solution. That solution is us. So how we help animals. We're proud of our revolutionary approach to wildlife conflicts. So when we go out and do our work, and we, you're probably wondering how we do this. So our non-lethal services not only solves problems about harming wildlife, it educates people too. And it educates them along the way that our alternatives and the killing's not needed. For an example, I get a lot of jobs where people have a problem with rats in the garden, or they have foxes in the garden. And the alternative sometimes is, if they didn't come to us, they may have to have them killed. And I talk myself out of work. And, if I can convince people, show people that these animals can live in your gardens and they're fine, and if they don't want to know how to move them on without me even needing to come out, just by educating that person, just by giving advice, that saves lives. That saves those rats, and that can save those foxes. And, just things like that. I talk myself out of work all the time, and it's not very good business sense, a lot of people would say. But I'm not worried about the money. I'm not in it for the money. I'm in it because if I can convince those people to allow those foxes to raise their young in the garden, or people to just change their behavior to encourage the rats to leave, and it saves those animals' lives, job done. That, to me, is the best solution. We don't just help animals through our work, but we often donate 100% of our consultation fees that we do to our chosen charity of the year. So from helping the animal hospice, equipping the wildlife hospital with new fancy equipment, paying for vet fees for monkeys, for Vervet Monkey Foundation, we've helped them a couple of times. They've got a talk you can check out on the Vegfest pages and YouTube channel too. But also, raising awareness and funds. So our consultations is where, if I can't get to a client and they can phone me up or book an appointment, and what I'll do is I'll spend the time to talk them through how to solve their problem. And I think it's important to allow people to be educated and allow them to try and solve the problem themselves. Because once they understand, I can guide them through the process of doing it themselves. And they don't have to pay loads of money to have me come all the way down and do the job when they realize they're now empowered and can do it themselves. So when they pay through these consultations, it's usually about £30. All the money goes into a pot and I give it to the charities, which I choose every year. And at the moment, our donations are going to the Fox Project to help the amazing work they do for UK foxes and raising fox cubs, but also the education about foxes. So it's charities like this that I like to give back to. And I love supporting other charities and grassroots campaigns to help our wildlife, because we need to work together to save our wildlife. And as vegans, we should all be supporting these organizations as well, because if we all work together, we become a one strong, united voice, and then you'll be surprised what we could really change. And like I said, as well as doing this, we do our research into new ideas to provide services to help more wildlife. And I briefly touched on about our wasp nest repellent. We did develop this, and we got invited to go to a big company, I won't name them, to go and basically pitch this idea to them. And they got the European commercial director over to come and listen, because they're really excited by it. I got offered funding for this up to £2.5 million, but there was a snag. They wanted to do animal testing, and that is against everything I believe in. So sadly, I had to walk away from this. And a lot of people were going, yeah, but you could have saved loads of wasps from this. But I will never sell out our values as an organization and as a person. And, you know, I've campaigned against animal testing many years ago, and I still would now. I'm never going to sell out my values or my business or my vegan values, no matter how much money it's worth. I'll find another way, and I'll make sure I can help animals another way. So, you know, what services do we provide? We offer services both to individuals and to businesses. So if you have a business and you need help protecting your business and your stock and your reputation, or if you've got help that you needed now because you've got animals causing troubles, get in touch. You know, we've helped art centres. We look after one of the UK's biggest high street names with their retail stores. We've done movie studios, restaurants, even went to the Athletes Village in Glasgow, the Commonwealth Games, and did work there. And like I said, I've travelled all over Europe helping people. And this is because as the years go by, people realise that our service really works, and we really can help people overcome wildlife conflicts. Whether it be remote consultations where I help people remotely, whether it be on-site assessments, or whether we go and do exclusion and proofing of people's homes and people's businesses to protect them. And, you know, we think it's really important that if a business is using this, a lot of businesses will never post about the pest control they use. So realise that pest control has become a real taboo word. And I agree, I don't like calling it pest control because I don't see wildlife as pests. So we call it wildlife management. So if we go and do a business, you know, if there's business people out there now listening to this, this is a great PR opportunity for your business. You're using a vegan business, you're using a business which is not going to harm animals, which is environmentally friendly. And, you know, the environment's a huge issue right now because our planet is under strain. And the way we work, we respect the environment as well as the animals. But this is a great PR opportunity for businesses to use. Not only again a great PR opportunity, you're also going to solve your wildlife problem. It's going to protect your stock, it's going to protect your reputation, and it's going to keep your staff and customers safe. We do sometimes do relocation work. It's a very rare one. We do it under license. One recently, we had to relocate animals from someone's pond up here in Scotland. So under license, we emptied out someone's pond and had to relocate these creatures, and there was tadpoles and frogs and great diving beetles, and every little animal to me matters. So we relocated them to a new site. And, you know, you're probably thinking, why would someone want to get rid of a pond? Well, sadly, the child that fell in the pond, and it became a bit of a risk and a hazard for the children to use the garden. But they were going to look at other wildlife things they could do. We also do educational talks, very much like this one. And I love nothing more than educating people about the work I do and about the animals we work with. I mean, look at this beautiful rat in this picture. You know, rats are so intelligent. They're so fun to work with, but they're by far my hardest client. So when I go out and do a job, I always joke that the client is actually the animal, so let's say in this case a rat, rather than the person paying me to do the job. So my maximum respect and effort has to go towards safeguarding the animal. Now, rats are great fun. If you're ever trying to catch rats in live catch traps, it is hard. You'll catch the babies first, then you'll catch the big boys, but you very rarely catch the females. They're so super intelligent, so hard to catch. And it really is a battle of the minds when I come up against rats, and using my experience and knowledge to understand what's going on in someone's home, and then, you know, solving the puzzle, solving how they're getting in, why they're getting in, and then stopping them coming in without causing them harm. They're very tricky jobs to do, but I love the challenge. And in fact, I've got a couple of jobs coming up tomorrow, both with rats up here in Scotland that I'll be doing. And I do believe one of my clients is actually watching this, so hello, and I'll see you tomorrow. Another service I do, and I don't shout out about this enough, it was actually featured in the Your Cat magazine. It's our cat service. Now, why are you thinking a company like ours will be doing a cat service? Well, it all started when I started hearing about poisoning going on back in my hometown in Essex, where up to 20 cats have died through poisoning and more had gone missing. So I contacted a group that formed to try and find out what was going on, and using my knowledge and my qualifications in cat behavior and psychology, I was able to start pinpointing where these cats from, where they were found, where they would go, whether they're male or female, whether they're neutered or not. And I actually pinpointed it down to 3 houses. And working with the police force there, I even said to him, I believe your cat killer is one of these 3 houses in a row. Right enough, it was indeed. They raided a property, but sadly didn't have enough evidence to prosecute the individual. But it did stop the killings, thank goodness. So my cat service came out of that because I wanted to understand why this person would go ahead and kill these cats. And the reason being because they were fouling in his garden and chasing away the birds. And there was no service out there that he could turn to for help. So we set this up. So if you're having problems with cats in your garden, or know someone is having problems with cats in their garden, get in touch. Don't ever let it get to the stage that this individual got to. They needed help. They went the complete wrong way about it. So that's a service that we do. And it's been very successful. All the jobs I think we've done, we've completed the jobs and solved the problem. And it's just about, again, understanding the animal you work with. You know, the way they think and behave, the psychology of that animal. And that's how I work. I get into their mindset, understand from their point of view what's going on in their world, and use that against them to move them along. So species we cover. This is just a very small bit of the species we cover. So rodents, so your rats and your mice. So with rats and mice, we go out and help people and businesses when they're in their homes. At the moment, we're getting a lot of calls and inquiries coming in with rats in people's lofts and in their walls. Very tricky to deal with, but we can help you with them. Birds. So one of the things that we've been focused on this year is our herring gulls up here in Scotland and lesser blackback gulls. So we do help with pigeons and gull problems. Now, like I said before, gulls are a big issue in Scotland. A lot of people don't like them, sadly. But the problem here is, and this is why our service is so important, herring gulls are a red-listed species, and many other gulls are amber-listed species. Now, what this means is these species are in decline, and that means they need our help. But sadly, licensing is still allowing companies to go and take and kill not just the adult birds, but also the chicks. Now, you'd think, why would people want to kill baby gull chicks? It's mind-boggling. So I set up this gull service, and it's on our website, the Gull Nuisance Hotline. And we did our first gull jobs this year where, under license, we took gulls from 2 different locations, from where the adults were swooping members of the public and the people who lived in the property, because these people didn't want these gulls killed. And they found us, and thank goodness they did, because we took these gulls to a local wildlife rescue, Hazelhead Wildlife Rescue, where they were raised as just little babies, and then they were released this year. So it just shows you, there is an alternative, and we want more pest control companies to follow this lead, because I guarantee, if as a pest controller watching right now, do you really enjoy your job where you're having to kill baby fluffy birds? I don't think you do. There is an alternative. Get in touch, and I'll happily share you how to do it. Again, I'm not worried about the money. I'm worried about saving lives, and I'll happily share my knowledge and skills with people to make this world better. Another one is moles. Now, we've been researching into moles, and we're going to be hopefully trialing this very soon. But I believe I can mole-proof an area for a very, very long time. I don't want to go into too much about it. It involved many, many hours of research, reading studies, reading books, reading everything I could about moles to understand how they think, and I found a way. So I will be going into that more lately. Another one we do, and I think there is a few companies now, especially in America, I think there's a couple of companies who are kind of mirroring the kind of work we're doing. But we, I believe, are the only company which extends our non-lethal side to insects. And yes, insects, a lot of people are like, why bother? Well, they're important. They're so important to our ecosystems. Without insects, we don't have birds. Without insects, so not all birds, some bird species which feed off them. Without insects, we don't have the biodiversity. Plants can't be pollinated. Food that us as vegans eat, our fruits and our vegetables and our grains, they're pollinated by insects. So we should all be focused on how we can protect our insects more. But we can do insect jobs from wasps. We can help with ants. We can help with all sorts of moths that might come into your homes and chew on fabrics or clothes. There's nothing we won't look into to try and help. We do a lot of work with foxes, and we get a lot of fox inquiries. Now, there is an amazing organization called Foxagon, who I believe they're also maybe run by vegans too, who do non-lethal fox deterrents down in London and the southeast. So if you're in that area and you've got a fox problem, Foxagon, that's who you need to get in contact with. The team there is incredible. I've mentioned the cat service, and then also squirrels. Now, squirrels cause a lot of debate. I won't go into that today, but there's a huge, obviously, the red v greys. It's a massive, in-depth field to go into. And sadly, in this country, if you have a grey squirrel in your loft, you can't catch it, because if you catch it in a trap, by law, you have to kill it. But don't worry, we've found a way around this. We've found a way that we can help people who have squirrels nested in their lofts and take those, well, not even take those squirrels out, encourage them to go out, make sure they can't go back in, and solve people's problems. And in fact, our very first job coming out of the first lockdown up here in Scotland was indeed a squirrel job, and we solved that one too. I mean, look at this picture. Who cannot love a lovely little squirrel like that? They're absolutely beautiful, intelligent, sentient beings. And, I love them. One of my absolutely favorite creatures to work with. So, as a summary, if you have a wildlife conflict, remember, there is a kinder, more compassionate way of solving it. And you can get in touch with me at any time, leave a comment in here, or get in touch via our website or social media, and even if you just want to talk over a problem, I'll talk for ages with people about wildlife, because it's my love, it's my passion, and it's that love and passion I want to drive forward to help animals. And one of the things I was reading a book about rewilding, and one of the things they mention in there is the impact that conventional pest control with poisons have on our planet. So without even knowing it, our environmental side is even more important now than we ever even realized. Because by not using poisons, by not killing animals, we're not just helping animals, we're helping protect our environment and our ecosystems. And right now, that's so important with the way that our planet's going. So many species are in decline and need our help. So, we do more than just that. I want to expand this business. I want to have a Humane Wildlife Solutions in every county in the UK, because that way, then there's always going to be a non-lethal solution, an alternative, which is better for you, better for the wildlife, better for the environment. So, how can you help me get the message out there, because I still get people going, I've just found out about you. You can share our post, go on our Instagram, our Twitter, our Facebook, our website, share it amongst your friends. You hear anyone talk about a problem with slugs, with rats, mice, any animal, get them to contact me and I'll help. You know, one of my first big consultations I did was for an organization in South Africa who were helping write government policy about how to deal with baboons over there, and I actually helped them work through a process they could use. I've helped with skunks in America. You know, I don't know the first thing about skunks, but I spent the time to learn about their behavior and their psychology, and we helped that person find a solution. And we also did the same with raccoons. So if you're thinking, well, you know, how can you help me with your problem? Just ask. Don't be afraid to ask, and I'll help you. And another one, we also helped some Buddhist monks in the mountains in Nepal work through a rat problem on their veg patch that they had there. So, you know, we truly are global. We are inclusive. We're proudly vegan, and we're proud about pushing this message forward and helping not just the animals, not just you, the environment too. Also, you know, there's so many other organizations that you can support who do good work as well. You know, and Vegfest, you know, this, if it weren't for Vegfest giving us this platform today to host a wildlife summit and have all these amazing speakers, we just wouldn't have this chance to reach out to people. So to Tim, the Vegfest team, and Animal Aid, all coming together to put this day together. So that's my talk. I could go on for hours and hours and hours, but I'm sure I've bored enough people already, and I won't want to go on any longer. If you have any questions, now's the time to ask. And just quickly, this is a blue tit who was at a wildlife rescue. When I'm not doing the business, I also do wildlife photography and filmmaking, but I also I work in wildlife rehabilitation. So this little guy, he's okay. I know it looks like he's sellotaped into a cardboard box, but that was a little bit put across because he came in and he was okay. So it's just a fun little image for you to have. So we can then move on to questions now. And I can see there's a few questions in the comment section there.
Hi, Kevin. Yeah, I was just listening into that. That was really interesting. So thank you for that. And about basically finding solutions to, especially for businesses. I mean, it's really, really useful, interesting stuff. We've got a few comments in there. I've got to say, all the comments are just saying how amazing you are and how much everybody loves you and what a fantastic, fabulous service you provide. I haven't actually seen any questions from there, but I've got a question. I've got a question for you, which was something that I wanted to ask you. So I'm going to ask. I'll just see if we can get the question posted up. But
okay,
it's more of a question for people at home who may have, you know, an issue with maybe ants.
Okay.
Or earwigs. There may be, you know, spiders.
Spiders.
No, I know. I had an ant issue. No, I quite like ants. You know, I'm friendly with ants, and so we had. My pal told me the best thing to do with that is they layer a cayenne pepper around, and they'll sort of retreat. They won't come any past, but they won't kill them. They just don't like the smell, so they'll sort of go back.
Okay.
So what would you do? What would you suggest for sort of people at home?
Okay, so I've done quite a few ant jobs, funny enough. And because, again, this is where I get into the psychology and the behavior of ants and how they live and what they do. So what you'll get, Tim, you'll have one ant who will probably come into your home just exploring. If they find some food, they'll then go back the same route. Now, every time they go back and forth on that route, they're laying a trail. So when these ants, when you finally start getting 2 or 3 ants going along the same trail, there's now a scent trail going right across from their nest to the food source in your home. So what I've discovered is you need to watch where these ants go. So it's really key to find out how these ants get into your house. It's usually a very, very tiny hole. And then what you do is you wait until nightfall, so all the ants have gone back in their nest, and then you just use any kind of sealant to block up that hole. But then the vital thing is you need to use either a pure lemon or pure vinegar mix and to rub that scent off. It's basically like chemical warfare with ants without harming them. You need to destroy that chemical trail. And once you destroy that chemical trail, they shouldn't come back again.
Okay, and what about wasps? What would you say about wasps? If you get a few wasps hanging around, I mean, people
Okay.
bit wary of wasps. Obviously, they've got a sting in their tails. So, what's the advice on wasps?
Okay, I'm glad you asked this one. Firstly, don't attempt to do this at home. So I've, again, studied wasps so intently into their psychology and behavior. I can now go and pick up a wasp nest in my hand without protective equipment, put it into a container and go and reset it. Now, don't try this at home. Please don't. And I'll run quickly back through what I've done. So my very first wasp job, I had to remove a small nest and got stung in my eye. But as a true professional, I refused to stop and carried on just one eye and help these people. But I've learned over the years to understand how they behave. Now, if you've got wasps at home, if you can leave them, then please do, because it's so important for your gardens and our wider ecosystem. You may not see it, but they're pollinators. They also get rid of all those little insects which eat your flowers and your vegetables. And, you know, there are occasions where you can't remove a nest, but you can, what I do is put up almost like a wall. So if you've got to walk past near where there's a wasp nest, you can almost shield it off so they can continue. But if you walk past and disturb them and they swarm up, they can't see you. So if they can't see you, they won't go for you. Now, we've tried this a few times over the last couple of years to great success. So if you have a wasp nest at home, firstly, don't go interfering with it because you might have an allergy. And I don't want you to be harmed. But get in touch and I'll give you the advice you need. And Tim, I once did a job and I got stung 18 times by a wasp, by a big nest of wasps. And I was on the phone to my partner in the evening and I was slurring my words. My partner made me call NHS 24 at the time. And they recommended I was rushed into hospital because obviously the venom from the wasp was going through my system. And I was slowly starting to react. But me being stubborn, I refused to go into the hospital. And the next time I got stung, I was actually all right. So again, don't recommend it. It was very painful. But yeah, if you have wasp nests, get in touch because every situation is different. I'll happily tell you what to do. But if you can leave them, it's very important that you do.
And just also on the home one, I can see we got some questions which we're going to put up from we got several questions actually from people. But I'm just going to ask my last question to you, Kevin, about basically the slight, you know, I know there was a campaign in, I think in May to sort of not cut your lawns and not try and let the gardens grow to encourage pollination, insects thriving and such like. What about now when, you know, leaves? What's your advice about leaves? I mean, the trouble is if you leave a load of leaves rotting on your grass, they're going to damage the grass. You're going to have to resow it all again. But you know, you don't really want to be raking leaves all too much either. What's your solution to that?
To be honest, Tim, I would say leave the leaves there. They don't last too long. As long as your soil's healthy and there's loads of insects, especially worms. Worms will come out of the soil and pull leaves down, and they're really good because once these leaves biodegrade in these worm tunnels and on the lawn, your lawn will even be better the next year. And I know in the winter months, you know, we're not going to be using our gardens anyway, but as it breaks down, all these insects are then coming out and they're feeding off all these fallen leaves, and it'll actually make your garden and your soil in your garden a lot richer and a lot healthier. So it may not look pleasant to begin with, but if you can leave them, it's really important, not just for the insects, but also for the birds in the autumn and the winter too, and other creatures. You know, it provides cover for voles and shrews and also food for them as well. So if you can leave it, I would recommend leaving it because next year, once all that breaks down and feeds back into your garden, your grass next year is going to be even stronger, even more incredible.
Not sure the landlady would agree with that, but there you go.
It's a hard sell, that one.
But I've certainly been paying more attention. I think we all had a sort of, you know, an increase in understanding. I think the bees issue over the last 5 years, bees and the importance of bees and insects has become more into into that. Well, look, Kevin, that's really interesting. I think it's important for people to know, start thinking about too, how especially as you go vegan, and you just get more of an understanding, this kind of understanding that actually maybe, some of these animals have a right not to be trampled on or poisoned or exterminated. At the same time, you've got to learn to manage how they interact with your life, and especially, of course, if you've got sort of hygiene issues and such like, it's a really important one. So it's an example of where there's some conflict. Now, I know that there's some so one or two questions. I think this first question we're going to come up is are there here you go, any species which are really difficult to manage, like bed bugs?
Okay, well, this actually brings me on perfectly, Tim. It's like you've read my mind. I'm actually at the moment, just about this winter, when things are a bit quieter, going to start my research into bed bugs. But if you're talking about species which are difficult to manage, fleas. But I've found a way. I'm pretty sure if someone has fleas in their pets and in their home, I can collect all your fleas in one place without harming them, off your pet and off your home, without using any chemicals. Well, apart from water is a chemical. But I'm yet to trial it. But like things like that, I'm always trying to find new ways forward. But I reckon I can. If someone's got fleas in their house or their pet's got fleas, get in touch. I'd love to maybe trial this. But bed bugs, I can show you the big studies I've got to go through. It's something I'm going to get to. So, Jake, at the moment, bed bugs will be a hard one. But I would say difficult to manage would be rats, because their sheer intelligence is staggering, Tim. Working with rats, they're so intelligent and really tough to work with.
Okay, so what you've basically bed bugs, Jake, you're going to have to keep an eye on Kevin's work. Might have to come back next year and ask it that way. More of an informed answer, but I think it's an example too, Kevin, of just how much there is to learn. You noted how different animals have different, levels of interest. So, and not to, it's something I've been asked before, really, because part of the understanding about animal rights really is that all animals, it's not really the cognitive skills that's the issue. It's the fact they are sentient. That's the key issue. So, intelligence or being cuddly or beautiful or adorable or is not, for humans we tend to react to all of that, but it's important to remember that we're trying to include all animals wherever we can under this, and it is a challenge when you get to bed bugs and ear lice or whatever it is, earwigs. Earwigs. It's a challenge. How far do you extend the rights? I know that Professor Tom Reagan, who was really articulated a lot of the philosophy of animal rights. He did always refer. He said, "Well, if you ask this question, he said, draw your lines in pencil. So you may have to rub them out again. And redraw them. So it's continually shifting, but I love the way that you're pushing this out in this direction. Now, I know we've got a question about a farmer relating to farming. So here you go. There's always the argument of farmers saying that rabbits eat their crops. Can these solutions be used on a large-scale farming as such to protect crops? So that's a really good question, Sarah C. Thank you for that one. Kevin, what's your answer to this?
Well, firstly, rabbits cause very minimal damage to any farms and their food, unless you've got a really big population. And funny enough, I actually had someone contact me who lives in the countryside. There's a problem with rabbits at the moment. Now, yes, these methods can be upscaled, but it does require the commitment from the person who's having the problem. So if a farmer had a really bad problem with a certain area, then there is no quick fix, but there is a process you can work through, Tim. And if they're willing to work with me, I can show them how they can make sure rabbits don't get back into their fields, because it can be done. I mean, rabbits wouldn't normally nest or have their warrens on or in a field. They'd normally be at the field edges. So there are ways you can work through this. And like I said, I'm currently doing this at the moment with a client I was speaking to this morning. So yeah, they can be upscaled. It just requires the commitment of the person having the problem to really follow it through and follow my advice.
Brilliant. Okay, and I know that later on this evening we've got a chat about a discussion about sort of animal rights and extending that to how we extend these principles to understanding of wildlife and free living beings. And I think part of the questions, one of the things we'll be looking at briefly is sort of crop damage and perhaps some of the fallacies, of vegan fallacies you get of crop damage, crop how many animals are killed in farming processes, and especially for plant-based diets. So that's something we'll be looking at later on today, actually, from a more slightly sort of rights-based, philosophical, less pragmatic position, maybe. But that'd be interesting, that one. But I love the fact you're finding these solutions, Kevin. But I think it's also clear that people do have to be committed to work with you to achieve this. So we've got another question here about business kitchens.
Okay.
Right. Ooh.
Okay, I've got one for this one. So Rhiannon, thank you for your question.
Can we hit that back up, please? Sorry, can we see that again? Yeah, Kevin, you just had to talk above the.
That's okay.
Quite a long question, but we're fine. We're good. We can see above it.
I know there is a solution to this, but I don't have the design skills or engineering skills to make it happen. So I know that there's a way that I can develop a product if I had the funding and skills to take it further, which would eliminate every single need for every single one of those blue electric lights. And it would also, and my idea, the idea with this would actually take the animals, which say, for example, these flies and wasps, and actually put them back outside again. I have a prototype system, which I have got. I just need to spend time doing it. I'm one man trying to fight a whole industry. If anyone who's a good engineer or good at design and development want to get in touch, then maybe we could try and put this out there. But there is a way that I think you can take this aspect of business kitchens and never have to use those blue electric lights again. And at the same time, it would meet the health and safety standards. It will mean no flies or wasps in your kitchens, and none of them would get hurt. They'd all be taken back outside without you having to do a single thing.
How interesting. How interesting. That's really interesting, Kevin. That's just really interesting. You've fascinating. You've got some solutions up your sleeve. So I know there's a question about foxes. There's an advice on what you can use to get rid of fox marking smell. Now, I've got fox in my backyard. I've got a fox in the back there. I had a fox for a while, and I know my pal Karen has a fox called Basil, I believe. Guess why? Yeah. Obviously, we can manage to get that, because I don't think you get Basil Brush on the telly anymore. It's a little bit like.
I remember Basil Brush. I used to love him. Brilliant.
Basil Brush, a bit 70s or 80s, maybe. I definitely remember from the 70s. Basil Brush was. Well, that's why if you know somebody's got a fox in their backyard, they call him Basil. That's why. But so what do we have here? That we have foxes that visit. Uses citronella. Doesn't quite cut it.
No, it wouldn't. I wouldn't suggest using citronella.
Minimal. Yes, you mentioned that.
If you're a hunt saboteur, citronella would be brilliant working with foxes on trails. But in your situation here, I wouldn't recommend using citronella. So what you need to do, so foxes marking territories in your garden, first of all, you need to neutralize it, because if you don't neutralize the territory, they're going to keep doing it. So in this situation, I would remove the droppings, and then I would use hot soapy water on the area where they keep fouling. Now, the reason to do this is hot soapy water breaks down any fats and any of that scent that might remain there and washes it away. Then you can maybe try citronella, but I would probably suggest using a product like the Fox Repellent Scoop. Now putting that on top. So you remove the droppings, you neutralize it with hot soapy water, and then you use a safe Fox Repellent like Scoop. which is safe to use in your garden, around your pets, around your family, and even on your vegetables if it's going there. And that should solve your problem. But there might always be a bigger issue there, the reason why they're fouling, and it could be more than just one fox. But those three things would normally solve those problems.
That's interesting, because I've noticed that the fox actually does do their droppings right by my door. I took that as a compliment, actually. I just sort of thought, well, you know, I obviously feel comfortable in my little backyard there. That was absolutely, so I took that as a compliment. So,
well, you're lucky. I wish I had foxes in my back garden, but I don't.
Absolutely thrilled. I'm absolutely thrilled. So we're lucky. We've got like a bit of a wildlife tucked away in the middle of Bristol here. Bit of a little bit of wild area, actually.
Bristol's a fox hotspot, Tim.
Sorry?
Bristol is one of the UK's fox hotspots. So, like London, Bristol, and Glasgow are three places you're most likely to see urban foxes in large numbers.
And to be fair, though, Kevin, you've got to be a bit careful with foxes, though, haven't you? I mean, is that right? I mean, especially if you've got sort of kids or something, you know. I mean, foxes can be. Is that right, or is that a bit of a myth?
That is a myth, Tim.
Is it?
Foxes pose no risk to people there or their children. I get that question a lot, Tim. So very common when I get people go, "Oh, I'm worried about my children playing in the garden. There's a fox there." You know, a fox isn't. You know, for starters, the jaw pressure they get is designed to kill maybe birds or bite into rats and mice. So they're not there to harm people's children. And in fact, if you've got foxes in the garden, they're going to be keeping rats and mice down. And the most common problem is people say, I have a fox in the garden and he's walking up to me. Now, it's not an aggressive action. When they're doing this, it's most likely one of your neighbours is feeding that fox, and that fox simply wants food. I did a job in Glasgow, Tim, where I had to go through a manhole, this big block of flats, and I nearly fell on top of a fox and a fox cub because they were underneath through the air vent, underneath the floor. And I cornered the fox, the vixen, and the cub by complete accident. And even in the most moment where they're cornered and they're terrified, they just froze. They didn't do anything to me. I've never been harmed by a fox, even ones I've had to raise in wildlife rescue. They don't pose any risk. But if you do have worries, get in touch. I'm more than happy to spend an hour talking about the wonderful world of foxes. And I guarantee after you spend ages speaking to me, you'll go away educated and feeling confident that your kids are safe in your garden, using the garden if there are foxes about.
Brilliant. That's really good advice, Kevin. You know, fox friendly. That's definitely fox friendly.
Indeed.
Lay a few fears, and it's good. This information, I think, especially, you know, when I think about coming up to Veganuary next year, it's another 6 weeks away, and then there's a sudden wealth of interest in plant-based diets, but the broader vegan philosophy. That I think, you know, I'd love to see some of this information. Part of what we're doing here, preparing some of this stuff, is going to be out there. I hope that people will really use this information, put this stuff around during January, February. But there's new people coming into this way of thinking and getting a foot in the door with a plant-based diet, perhaps beginning to make some changes, but beginning to, you know, ask some of these questions. And perhaps this is the first time they're going to be asking questions like this. And you know, I know my own journey of 40 years with plant-based diets. It's, you know, the animal rights, the understanding rights of animals to exist and to be able to have a right not to be used and not to be killed and not to be, you know, to be commodified.
Exactly. Yeah.
You know, to be done away with and just used as property. This takes time and understanding. I mean, it's something that we need to explore and present to people in a friendly, fun, and useful way that's solution based. So I think that's really nice. Maybe we've got another question about ants. Seems to be ants. Ants is a popular topic today. So here's some more of a question just about ants. So you've mentioned about trails. What particularly would you use? Anything? Is there? I mean, you know, I mentioned cayenne pepper. Would you? Is that a bit?
No, it's an. I've never heard of it being used before, but I can imagine it would work. But with ants, so the key point with ants coming in is you'll need to watch them for a bit. You need to see where they're going to and from. They give away their entry points really easy because they follow that continuous trail. So like I said, it's like a chemical warfare against them, but when they're all abed and then they're not out and about, and it's breaking down that trail will stop them coming back in again. So even if you didn't put a block on the entry point, or you couldn't block the entry point, by treating the surfaces when the ants are gone. So remember, it's really important that when you're doing this, it's done at night time when the ants are all back in the nest and safe. Then you can use your pure lemon or your pure vinegar to break down these scent marks, these scent trails, and that should stop them coming in. And also make sure there's no food laying around, because even a small crumb, a granule of sugar to an ant is a big prize for a nest to keep going.
Just noticed the justice for Mel there. Just to mention, Mel Broughton will be on later at 5 o'clock.
Yes, I saw that.
So, justice for Mel, absolutely. That's I think this is really useful, helpful for people. Now, I know that there's another question about hedgehogs. We all love hedgehogs. It's something to do with, I think, Beatrix Potter or something. Miss Tiggy Winkle is about my earliest memory of hedgehogs. There's fabulous. Well, I've had some in my little backyard there. Like there's a bit of a sort of leaf heap, and we had some baby hedgehogs there. But what can we do? We read about the declining hedgehog population. Can we do anything? Hedgehogs? What can we do?
There is. There's loads you can do for hedgehogs. Like you said, Tim, hedgehogs are in really bad decline at the moment, and they need our help really. So make your garden hedgehog friendly. You can do this by making sure there's a water source for them. So even just a little bowl of water, you can put food out for them. And you're looking at dried cat biscuits or wet cat biscuits. They're probably the most ideal thing that you can put out for them. Making sure hedgehogs can have safe passageways between properties. So if you've got a fence, make sure that, speak to your neighbour, make sure you can put a hedgehog-sized hole, usually by 30 centimetres is enough, allow them to travel through. Never use, if you've got slugs, please never use slug pellets or any kind of poisons, because these are hedgehogs' greatest threat as well at the moment. So you don't want to be putting anything out there to harm them. But just a bit of advice, Tim, for people listening about hedgehogs. If you see a hedgehog in your garden just now, we're getting into winter, and it looks small, I would advise you to take it inside and weigh it. Now, if that hedgehog's if it's less than 500 grams, then it probably is not going to be able to put enough weight on to survive the winter. So if it's below 500 grams, I would take it to your nearest wildlife rescue or hedgehog rescue, because that hedgehog will not be able to survive the winter if it goes into deep hibernation. So it's really important. So you can help your hedgehogs just by simply monitoring them. So get some good gloves, pick them up, put them on your kitchen scales. If your family don't mind you putting a little hedgehog on there, they won't harm you. They can be prickly. And if they're below 500 grams, then put them in a cardboard box and get them straight off to your nearest wildlife rescue. That's probably one of the best ways you can help hedgehogs if they are below weight this time of year.
Kevin, we've just come past the hour mark. I know we've got plenty more to come today. We've managed to pack in a huge amount into that hour. So it's an incredibly valuable hour there that hopefully people will, value and share later. Very welcome to. Think what just wanted to know where, just to wrap up, Kevin, where can people go for, apart from your website? If you've got any, good resources, or is that on your website? Can we just basically go to your website and ask you these questions?
Yeah, most definitely. And you know what, Tim, tying in with this Wildlife Summit, if you go on the Animal Aid website, they've got whole sections about helping all sorts of wildlife and what to do. And they have us listed on there too. So do check out Animal Aid's website. And I think One Kind in Scotland, they have something similar. But if you want some advice or got any questions, you can go to Humane Wildlife Solutions on Facebook, our website. I'm more than happy to talk to people, answer emails and questions if it's regarding wildlife. I've always will make the time for people if they need my help, Tim.
I hope we've got the website right there, animalaid.org.uk, I think it is, or maybe it's .co.uk. Do you know what? I don't even know. That's pretty shocking. But you know what? If you Google up Animal Aid, there's one Animal Aid in the UK. And we love Animal Aid so much.
We do, yes.
Out of all the animal groups, Animal Aid have always had this really strong focus on wildlife and free living beings. And you know, there's some great resources there. And I'm sure there's other people who have some great resources too, but these are the specialists really, and this is where you can go to answer questions. You've obviously got a lot of passion for this, Kevin. You can see you're just absolutely love it. So people, you know, make use of this option. There's some free energy, some really good solutions for businesses, some lots of resources. Kim, I just want to say thank you ever so much.
Thank you, Tim.
And you know, I'm looking forward to seeing you back. I think you're going to come back and join us at 12:30 when we talking to Ian Green from Animal Aid about wildlife, partly photography, which is another of your interests.
Indeed, looking forward to that one.
And people, thank you for listening. Thank you for all the questions. And for
thank you, everyone.
Which we share the sentiments. We love your work, Kevin. Thank you very much. Kevin Newell, Humane Wildlife Solutions.
Thank you, everyone.